Welcome everybody to the Kubernetes 1.8 Release Burndown meeting for Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. And I am Jay Singer-Dumars, release team leader. If you want to follow along after the fact, this meeting and the notes are available at bit.ly/Kates18release, and that will have the notes of everything we're talking about right now. To start off, I'm going to run through the timeline for this week and next week as we do each meeting, and then we'll go over some metrics, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics about where we're at right now. So briefly, today, Wednesday, is the end of code freeze as agreed upon in the schedule. I believe that this is a best effort sort of thing. If we don't feel comfortable lifting the code freeze, which we'll talk about here in a bit, we won't, but the plan is to do that. That means a final fast forwards of the release branch and any subsequent additions to that release branch would be cherry picked in by branch manager, which is Adam Worrell, and those would be restricted to items that address issues in the 1.8 milestone. And basically we will, assuming we're going to move forward with the release unfreeze, we'll remove the milestone restrictions in the bot and drain the backlog over the weekend. Friday, documentation PRs are LGTM'd and ready to merge, ideally. So that means that tech review on all the documentation is done and that those are basically ready for prime time as much as possible. In theory, there should be no feature-related functionality changes unless there's some sort of revert necessary to fix an issue. Timeline for next week, daily burndown meetings. So you can expect this enjoyable, exciting meeting every single day of the week, which I know you're looking forward to. Monday, we'll cut the 1.9.0 alpha.1 release, that will hopefully go smoothly. Wednesday, we'll cut the version 1.8 release candidate. In short, that is our first effort to get solid feedback on the quality of the release itself. We will take it extremely seriously and try and solicit as much feedback as possible. I think that's pretty much it. I'm realizing the metrics review that Jace, the release leader, apparently totally failed in his job and didn't do any of the fancy snazzy roll-ups. Somebody's doing that right now, and whoever that is, thank you.
Take some time, we can come back to that one.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So we will table that, and Aaron is being very kind to update those figures as we stand right now. So right now, Ihor, are you around? Do we have an Ihor? I don't see an Ihor. That's too bad. He wanted to update on features stuff, but looks like he's not here. So we're going to hope that he arrives and we'll go back to that. There are no new feature exception requests. I believe this morning I got traction on the very last pull request that was from GitHub user ALRS, that's in progress. Retesting is happening. I believe I have got the pull request ready to merge for the docs or the changelog fix. So basically removing the 1.2.star entries and moving those to a different file. So hopefully that will be done. Thanks to Don Chen for doing the approval on that. And I believe that is it for outstanding things that I'm aware of. I'd love to know if anybody else knows of anything else that should be in the exception process right now that I haven't seen. Any questions, etc. there, or anybody know about anything? Cool. So yesterday in the SIG madness that is Tuesday, where everybody has their SIG meetings at exactly the same time, we went through a couple of SIG meetings, specifically Cluster Lifecycle and Node, and Caleb raised what I believe is a very wise thing, which is declaring intellectual bankruptcy on trying to come up with some sort of feature themes. The reason being that we've seen, I think it more so in this release than any other, that there's sort of a disconnect between what we think the release will be and what people actually busily coding in the background and the feature is. And so in that regard, the PM group had designs on what might have been a feature theme. There were some things developed at the developer summit a while back, but in reality, those didn't feel particularly relevant from a day-to-day perspective. So we have a relatively serious disconnect between the product management process and what is actually winding up in releases. I don't consider this a bad thing. In fact, I feel like it's a good thing because it's leading to underscoring that the governance model of features is actually what are SIGs doing. It's kind of as simple as that. So a SIG, for example, SIG Node, very succinctly said that their raison d'etre for the release is, hey, let's have stable, extensible software that runs securely on a node. It's like, yeah, that's a good product theme. Yeah, make this stuff work and be stable. So at the end of the day, network, storage, everybody's going to have their own themes that they're working on, and really those themes should align nicely with the governance model. So this is sort of, I think, a good evolution, and I'm really appreciative that Caleb called it out. I was a little reluctant to do that because I don't want to speak for SIG PM because I'm not actually a SIG organizer there. But essentially, that's where we stand now. And both of those SIGs, both Cluster Lifecycle and Node, had resounding support and resonance with this idea that let's give this a shot. That said, I'm going to take it upon myself, and also I'm going to draft Caleb. We're going to come up with some sort of alignment between PM and SIG release, SIG architecture, and all that program level stuff. So once that's a proposal, I would love to have everybody look it over and give their 2 cents on it. So that was a very long explanation of a single bullet point. Still no Eeyore, is that right? No Eeyore. Somebody sees him, can you like yell at him?
For Jennifer, you'll need to bang on the doors, ask him to fill out the major theme section, and get them I guess as quickly as possible. Essentially.
I didn't catch half of that. I don't know if someone else is.
No, it's
lots of snippets were dropped there. I think like internet connection or something. If you can drop it in chat, Caleb will be happy to narrate.
Yeah, Caleb, you sound like you're in the Matrix there for a minute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what he said, but I'd rather have him say it. So moving along. Branch updates, branch health. This is where we'll get into talking about today's activities and all that. So Adam and Mehdi are sort of the 2 people I called out for this update. But the core things we need to identify is what was the timing on all of the stuff that we want to do today. So the reopening the feature branch, reopening the master for new input, cutting the beta.2, draining PRs out so that we make sure that we've got everything we can before the beta gets cut, and so forth. Also, I had a question, and I'm not sure anybody here can answer it, and I'm going to put it in the notes, is what are we doing for release artifacts for beta releases? Do we cut RPMs and all that stuff, or should we be? So I'm adding that.
I know, I remember hearing Robert Bailey talk about last release that we are sort of expecting. Last time we failed to cut RPMs and DEBs correctly, but that it was an aim of Cluster Lifecycle to treat these sort of as first-class release items. I don't know what updates have gone throughout this release, but say cluster lifecycle would probably be the people to follow up on that.
Okay, I will follow up with them. All right, do you want to take it, Adam? What does your magic playlist say about what happens now? Magic, of course. And you're a little quiet, so if you can make sure the microphone's nice and close to you, that would be great.
Sorry, let me huddle a bit closer. So we have to do the inverse of the commit that we did a while ago. That's actually a pretty quick operation, and then restart the submit queue. That's the thing that would kind of do that. And there's a little bit of dancing either side of it. I'm guessing we should coordinate a handful of people together for about an hour to make sure we can do all that smoothly. I would propose doing that sometime around 4 or 5 today. By default, that's kind of my favorite time to try and do things. So you've had a chance to see if things are stable, any panics going on. And also I happen to be on a bus, so I can do a lot of stuff remotely quite conveniently. Now, I don't know how that stands over people's expectations for like what things finally get pushed through today, if there's a rush or something like that. But anyway, that'll be my proposal to do that today.
So in terms of timing, lifting code freeze is vastly less important than making sure that we need to do all the cleanup around the branch and all that. Because people are going to have plenty of time to get stuff into the 1.9 milestone. And we are at a critical juncture point for the work that came up to this point. So if we have an Occam's razor about decision making in this, it's always let's err on the side of a better 1.8 release than trying to get flow going into 1.9.
So like one thing, for example, from a test info perspective is if I'm just looking at the release 1.8 blocking dashboard, which is what we would start looking at once we lift code freeze, right? The set of tests that are there is much smaller than the set of tests that are in the release master blocking dashboard. It tells me we still have some work to do there. Another metric I think I have heard us use in the past in other releases is just looking at the number of release blocking or critical issues and deciding whether or not we feel that it's going to become like higher friction to cherry pick changes in versus this fast forwarding thing. So just, are we comfortable with the general stability of the branch, of the master branch today before we start forking off? Just to Jace's point of like, we want to cut this when it's appropriate.
So to speak up of the size of the 1.8 blocking dashboard, that's smaller because we don't support CVM in 1.8 anymore, which means we most likely we don't have all the Debian CVM test jobs, so it's half the size of our jobs. So it looks smaller, but it should still have the same coverage.
That makes sense.
That is fantastic news.
CVM was the old version of the Node OS that we're using, and that's not being supported on 1.8. And we used to run everything on both flavors of the Node OS.
Cool. So Sen, is there anything that you're aware of that we're missing there, or does it feel like you said that the coverage is complete as it stands?
I might need to ping some specific SIGs, see if they want to add their own jobs. For example, I know we might need to add the GPU test for 1.8, but that requires some special project setup. I'll probably ask one of the interest party, see if they can help. Maybe I'll do that after the meeting.
Okay. And so the GPU inclusions, that's an alpha, correct? We're not trying to promote that from alpha to beta, right? Or are we?
I don't remember. Maybe.
I'm sorry, what was the question? I missed that.
I'm just trying.
GPU.
Yeah, I just want to understand. I want to understand what, if for some reason that becomes a tangled mess to get the GPU testing in place, if that's considered a release blocker or not.
I can get back to you on that.
Because if it's promoting from alpha to beta, that's a very different discussion than this is an alpha feature that is maybe not fully tested.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's good news. Anything else you can think of, Sin, that we can just document here, or does that feel like the core?
Yeah, all the core jobs are there already and running. I think we can, I mean, I don't mind like start with that and we can add a GPU test later.
Okay. Yeah, if we can get any signal, even if somebody has, if there's anything that we can do to get that in place, let's do it, but let's call it best effort. And I would definitely want Adam to go through the research just to make sure we know what we're dealing with there, the importance of it.
Yeah, I am, for what it's worth, like in favor of lifting the freeze earlier. That sounds great. I think this will imply that for the 65 or however many open issues we have, that we're now going to have to cherry pick to see any change in tests to close out all of those things. And so I would anticipate this will now mean daily cherry picking rather than daily fast forwarding, which means at least 2 commits for each of these things. Which, just as long as I honestly don't know if that's the right balance to strike. Like if we think, yeah, sure, that's fine, no problem. We'll just cherry pick everything from now on.
I think that's broadly the intent, as I understand it. I did have a question about that because doing these batch cherry picks in many senses is analogous to doing a branch fast forward, except we can be more selective. But it's a single batch thing that I would propose for a while at least. We just do daily, roughly at about 4 or 5 p.m. And that will hoover up all of the cherry pick candidates that have the cherry pick approved label. And I'm aware that I actually, despite having a good conversation with Phil Rock, I no longer know how that label gets applied. who's able to add it? But that's what drives the cherry pick process. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, the only other thing I have seen us use to hesitate to lift code freeze is when we know that there is a large breaking change that could possibly land, thus making it difficult to cherry pick or backport changes from the master branch to 1.8. So the big example for last release was when we extracted all of the API types into a separate repo, and that basically all code everywhere had to change. I am unaware of any such large changes currently, but I don't know if anybody else is aware of anything incoming that might make cherry picking more difficult and require slightly more rebasing and merge conflict resolving and stuff like that.
So those things normally comes from API machinery, I guess. I can sync up with the team today to see if we have any change of those kinds or not.
Thank you, Mehdi. That would be fantastic. And I don't think there's anything in cluster lifecycle related to kubeadm that is also major. They had looked at some of the self-hosting and whatnot, but I think they've dropped a lot of that. So that would be the other place. Are there any other external repos that are going to get impacted by lifting code freeze that we need to communicate with, or trying to think of any other things peripherally that are going to be problematic?
Are we planning to cut a 1.9 alpha 1 tag at the point where 1.9 diverges from 1.8 development?
Yeah, my instructions specify that as soon as code freeze gets lifted, we'll be cutting a 1.9 alpha 1.
Perfect.
Well, the timeline actually specifically was to do that on Monday, and I have no idea why that delay is there. I think actually what happens is we cut a 1.9.0 alpha 0 at the branch cutover, and then there's a 1 on Monday.
That's already been cut. As soon as the 1.8 release branch is cut,
oh, right.
master has 1.9 alpha 0. And that's the reason why you want to cut the alpha 1 as soon as you diverge, because otherwise you get weird version inversion.
Yes, right. Okay, well then we need to, I'm going to put it in the retro that we need to look at timing on that.
Yeah, I mean the difference between tomorrow and Monday, it probably isn't that big a deal, but
it's better to let's just do it the way it should be, and then we'll we'll be in good shape. Okay, alpha release cadence in schedule is not correct. Okay, cool. That's fantastic. So, all right. So basically, no major breaking changes. So that pretty much means that we can move forward unless there's opposition to doing the cut tonight and removing the restrictions on the merge queue. Who's actually going to do that work?
I can probably do that. It's a matter of basically reverting the CL that Carl did.
Yeah.
I'll need somebody to restart the submit queue.
Yeah, I think Ko in our team can like help you just rebound the Mondrian queue.
Okay.
So Adam, you're going to do the reversion on the changes necessary, or on the bot to force
I
the
can,
milestone?
or Ben can, or Sen can. We'll figure it out what's least confusing between the three of us.
Okay, great, thank you. What support do you need from us as a community to help you with this process, if any? I can make myself available as needed. I do have a meeting from 5 to 6 my time, but that's much earlier than you're saying about doing this.
What's the current queue size? Like, I just worry that probably someone check.
Somebody gonna get there faster than me?
3 is, 3 PRs in the queue.
Yeah, that's fine. Just let it drain.
I think the one thing that might benefit us is if anybody does catch wind of either something that really, really needs to make it in at the last minute for whatever reason, or there's a big kind of risky thing that might be happening in the next handful of days, just as we were talking about.
Maybe
let us know on Slack so we can kind of like hold off.
Maybe glancing through the open PRs, maybe get LGTM, but have some flake in the test and not get into the queue yet. Evaluate if they are like risky for cherry picking.
Okay, I will go ahead and do that in addition to the issues.
We'll be helping with that today as well.
That would be great. Yeah, I'll definitely, because I wanted to do that anyway. I wanted to update the spreadsheet I have by SIG,
Cool.
and then we can harass people as necessary to get them to update. Did I say that out loud? Man, my outside voice is not working right today. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll make sure that things look green as much as possible, and we'll make sure the submit queue doesn't have anything weird in it, and go from there.
Are we letting the community know that we're lifting code freeze? Maybe an email to the community is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I was actually going to do another status release status update today. I'll probably put a draft in the SIG release Slack channel just to have everybody read over before I send it out.
I was thinking something more specific, like we are lifting code freeze. If you have any big change coming after code freeze, please let us know. That could actually make our life harder to cherry pick.
Okay, I'll do 2 separate ones then, because that would make sense.
So
Cool.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, good. So looks like we're on track. That's exciting. So barring any of that discovery, finding something that's going to hamper our ability to do efficient cherry picks after this, we should be good to go. Let's just keep communication open and ready in the SIG release channel, so that we're all on the same page at any given moment. And just as a general rule, if you can @me, if you need my attention specifically, that's super helpful, because I've got way too many Slack channels. Okay, so let's jump back to the feature stuff. So Ihor, just to catch you up, basically we talked about the fact that the release themes has basically extrapolated down to the SIG level and doesn't really exist in a documentable way at the release level. And Caleb and myself have presented that for consideration at both SIG node and SIG cluster lifecycle, two of the most impacted people in that regard. And got very positive feedback that they felt that was appropriate for this release given what's happening in it. So with that in mind, we definitely know that there are plenty of outstanding feature issues and whatnot. So could you maybe fill us in on where we're at and what we need to do in the immediate term to reconcile that?
Yeah, so the biggest question and the biggest challenge that we have currently with the features that it seems that the real source of truth of the features for the release is the spreadsheet, not the features repo. It's surprised because we have always considered features repo as the source of truth, but I've been grooming backlog 2 days in a row, and I've noticed there are so many features that like some mysterious features that have been migrated from the previous release from 1.7. If they haven't been completed in 1.7, they haven't labeled with 1.8 milestone, and they haven't been showing any progress during 1.8 milestone. And I've also poken the feature owners in the feature issue, and I still haven't received any response. So at the moment we have approximately 30 active features in the features tracking spreadsheet that have linked docs, that have linked feature issues from the features repo. But in the features repo we have approximately 50 features that are labeled with 1.8 milestone, and this difference, 20 features, most of these 20 features are really dead features that haven't been showing any progress for 1.8 release. So what should we do with these features? So if a person is not responding on my or somebody else's request to update the feature, to show us the progress, to update the spreadsheet with this new feature, update the milestone to the next milestone if this feature is not showing the progress there. There are no references to the actual PRs in Kubernetes or to the different repo where the actual code implementation is coming. So what should we do with these features? Because I'm not sure that we really have 50 features in this release, while we had 30 features in every release starting from 1.6, starting from January. Because almost in every release, in 1.6, 1.7, and the previous releases, we had approximately 30 features per release, but in 1.8, we have 50 features. And I can expect that some of them are really mysterious features, not targeted on the release itself.
Just to point out, the features spreadsheet was missing the feature that I worked on in 1.8 that was tagged in 1.8 and had polls and release notes associated with it. So we need to be careful about calling the feature spreadsheet the source of truth if it is missing things that have been as active as that. So
yeah, if you're a feature owner, I would kindly ask you, and I asked feature owner several times during the community meetings and in the mailing threads, to update the feature tracking spreadsheet with your actual data, because it will be much easier for the feature owners to update the spreadsheet with their actual data than to people from the release team to track all the features that can be in the features repo.
The feature was in the spreadsheet, and I didn't apparently babysit it enough times, and it at some point got removed.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, so we have to also track.
Pushing onto feature owners to track their feature in multiple places, not just once, but multiple times over a release, is not scalable. So that's not reasonable.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm joking a bit. The source of truth with the spreadsheet, and we've been working for some time on replacing it with like more constructive and more technological way of tracking the features. But at this moment I'm pointing more to the issues with the features repo, not to the issues with the features tracking spreadsheet. So that was my plan. Thank you for heads up on your issue, because I also have noticed that some of the features have been removed from the features tracking spreadsheet. The different point that I have noticed some features in the features tracking spreadsheet that have been actively developed during 1.8 release cycle, but they haven't been closed, and the new feature issues have been opened with the previous theme of the feature. Like some feature has been split onto like 2 or 3 separate features, something like that, and they haven't been labeled and they haven't been placed into the spreadsheet. So one feature we have lost, but we haven't received these 2 or 3 new features. Let's discuss that.
I think this is going to be a big retro item. I think we've actually seen the wheels come off the feature bus. And the disparity between the spreadsheet and the features repo is really indicating that people have lost a feeling of urgency and relevance related to keeping those updated. And so there are a number of different things in flight, proposals and whatnot that are going to impact this. But I think for the essence of this release, the most important thing we can do is to reconcile the disparity. And unfortunately, that means that while the spreadsheet is considered the source of truth in the sense that people have been updating it more in the repo, it's not the source of truth. And we need people to actually fix the GitHub repo, because if we all die in a fiery airplane crash tomorrow, the only thing that's going to actually live on beyond us is the GitHub repo. So we need to make sure that that is accurate. So if that means literally yanking everything out of milestones except for things that are spoken for in the spreadsheet and making people go back and do it, or whatever that looks like, I don't want to do drastic things, but essentially we have to reconcile this as soon as possible, because this disparity has now made it very difficult to determine what deliverable functionality or deliverable increments we're actually providing to the user community. And so that's something that we need to put a lot of emphasis on. And also with a huge apology to people like Jordan, who have tried to do the right thing and have essentially been punished for it. And we can't do that. We have to make this process easy enough to engage with, and with enough rewards and benefits that people are eager to update these repos with the correct information. So I personally am going to do everything I can to help facilitate that for 1.9. And hopefully we as a community will find a solution to make that easier and less onerous for people.
Yeah, sounds good. So probably we may set some formal deadline for the release team when we will poke all the unupdated features from 1.8 milestone to make the information consistent in both places. So to make features report be a real source of truth of our features.
Okay. And so essentially that deadline would be the equivalent of when we did code freeze, but this is more like, or cutting a branch actually is more like it. To say that we're going to cut the feature branch, and anything that's not spoken for and actively championed by somebody or a SIG or whatnot, that we're going to pull it out of the milestone. And there's nothing more we can do.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Okay, cool. Okay, and thanks, Ihor, for trying to make sense out of a very difficult process. This is not easy.
Yeah, sorry, Caleb. What about September? So September 22nd is Friday, or which day?
Yeah, it's Friday of next week.
Okay, sounds good.
So,
probably sorry. Probably we may do it on Thursday.
Okay. So, Ihor, how do you feel about being the sort of spokesperson for that and communication with SIGs? Because right now I'm a little bit oversubscribed for communications and whatnot.
Yeah, I can be a bad policeman.
Fantastic.
Yeah, actually, Caleb, I will be next week in the United States, so I won't be in EU next week. But yeah, so Thursday or Friday will work.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, I just had two military helicopters fly. Like, I could have thrown a rock at them over my house.
I thought they had finally found you.
Yeah, they haven't yet. They kept going. All right, so we have covered all that. So let's. Oh,
just a quick question. In the meantime, does this mean? I'm still confused about what the source of truth is. I'm so sorry. Like, were it me acting as a human robot, I would be going through and adding everything in the 1.8, in the features repo to the spreadsheet, and then I'd be highlighting them in the spreadsheet to call out that they're like misbehaving and bad. I'd be like syncing between the two of these daily, but I'm just curious, like, what should I be looking at to understand, like, who's behaving and who's misbehaving, I guess. Because I've been seeing you like ping the features issues. It's, it's been a thing. A lot of them have been kicked out after you gently reminded them that it's still been in the 1.8 milestone. So I'm just curious, like, how we're going to track status going forward.
Yeah, so I can guarantee you that all the features that are listed in a spreadsheet, that have been listed in a spreadsheet 2 hours ago, when was the last time when I've been looking at, are the real features that are targeting 1.8. I can guarantee you that all 50 features that you can find in the features repo that are labeled with 1.8 milestone are really targeting 1.8.
So wait,
okay, that makes sense.
You just blew my mind a little bit there. Wait, so all 50 in the features repo?
I can guarantee that all 50. I'm not guaranteeing. I cannot, yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, we need to reconcile, basically, we need to find the things that fell through the cracks, like Jordan's stuff. Can we just sort the issues by recently updated and just make sure that there's, the obvious ones we put some sort of label, like a do not merge label on them or something, that we can.
Yeah, I'm labeling some of them with, there is a help wanted label. I will try to find the best label that we can use for these labels. So not picking off them from milestone, but certainly with, with 1.8 milestone label and without this label. So that can be an option for us. That's actually, I feel that also a big possible pain, not only for me as for release lead, but also for people who are responsible for the release notes and for marketing. I don't see Swarna here, but I feel that she will be like a bit also disappointed about that, because now in a few weeks before the real release time, we have to work on the marketing stuff. And Jace, as you remember, we've been reached out by CNCF representative about that. So I feel that CNCF people are really busy with open source summit these days, but we have to work on that, like in the nearest time, together with CNCF, together with marketing teams from Google and from other vendors and with the community marketing team. And we have to define the real set of the real features and the major teams, and you can call them anyway. What will be really challenging and useful for your users? What are the real reasons why should you update your Kubernetes cluster from 1.7 to 1.8?
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, so you're just to summarize where we're at, you're going to go through and reconcile the spreadsheet and the repo. The repo rightness will be determined by what is in the 1.8 milestone and does not have whatever that label is, right? So you're not going to pull things out of the. So there could be an issue that says blah blah blah. It's in the 1.8 milestone, but it also says help wanted, which means blah 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 may not actually apply to this release, and we're in the process of investigating that until that milestone either gets dropped or it gets added to your spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. I've been doing that with 1.8 release, with the previous release, and I've been labeling with help wanted the features that required some updating, some description updating or something like that, some any information that is extra required from them. So we can use this label also for this release.
Yeah, and answer Aaron's thing, this was ostensibly not supposed to be a feature release, quote unquote, with a theme. The theme was supposed to be stability. So we've already run afoul of that. So
Yeah, actually, Aaron, I feel that feature phrase definition, feature phrase times, and feature phrase usefulness should be one of the major points at the right perspective, because so many people are really from one side they're concerned about it, from the other side they don't really understand why do we need it, and do we really need it. So let's discuss on the retro.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to swing back to a question Adam had about the proof for cherry pick label or whatever that was. It's part of when you got your wizard hat from whoever had it before you, Adam. Basically, you get to make that call. And the rough guidance on that is if the cherry pick is considered moderate to low risk, and that if it's a major issue or something that's release impacting, basically consult with whoever you think is appropriate to do that from the SIGs. And I'd love to just be CC'd on those conversations.
Of course.
But ultimately, end of the day, you're the person who is mostly in charge of release branch health. So our job is to backstop you in that as any way possible.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks for that. I just want to very, very quickly point out, I've tried to summarize today's timeline back in the notes. I know we've already talked about this at length in the meeting, so I won't go over it. Just left people to look at. I'm kind of, after a quick offline conversation, we're proposing doing the final branch fast forward today at around midday so that we can wait for release 1.8 to generate some test results and so we can feel good about it.
I think that makes a ton of sense. That's actually a nice balance between the two things we need to do today with that branch.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. I'm going to highlight in the agenda that little thing that you just added because I think this is something that would be nice to make sure that people see. So it's in yellow. We're sort of running short on time, so I don't want to go over the. Aaron, thank you so much for doing the metrics review. Basically, it looks like just scanning through that we're not really tracking badly in any particular direction. I do worry a little bit about the milestone issues going up by 4, but as I had mentioned in the last Burndown meeting, there's every chance that was just people re-adding to the 1.8 milestone because the bot had removed them. We'll take a look at those through today. Lastly, Eric, can you give us an update on testing?
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a snafu earlier in the week where we broke some of the EDE test deployments. That had the consequence of making the one of the Federation ones fail. The Federation got one of the blocking ones for the PRs fail. That has since been moved to non-blocking, though we did fix the EDE test failures. The EDE tests are looking pretty good, actually. There's only one new test failure that I'm aware of. All the rest are green. We have people looking into the test failure that got merged a few hours ago. Upgrade is having some issues. The GCE one is consistently failing to actually come up, and I'm having trouble identifying owning SIGs or whoever owns the upgrade tests in general. We have some meetings later today to try to sort of get a dive at least into how the upgrade tests work and how to maybe improve them, but I'm a little confused about who the owning SIG on that is, or if there is one. I've been tagging Test Infra and Cluster Lifecycle with the hope that somebody will step up and try to get these back on track, but otherwise haven't seen much activity there. The GKE ones are still having an issue where the logs we've been failing to get sort of component logs. Some PRs went in recently that should resolve that. The latest batch of tests still don't have logs, but I'm hoping that we will start seeing logs out of the more recent ones. The upgrade tests that I've been tracking, the master ones, are starting to look better. The ones that are actually coming up the GKE side of things, I've not been tracking the 1.8 ones. So whoever is the branch manager for 1.8, I believe, is also, historically we've had different people tracking master or branch, but I'm also happy to help out with branch once the branch actually splits, when that happens. So the TLDR is EDE looks really good. Upgrade is sort of a mess, and I don't have any other updates besides that.
Okay, so this has now officially gotten my attention, and we need to escalate this in whatever way we can. You've done your due diligence to try and get help on this. We need to now make it clear that this is a risk.
I think for the last release too, the upgrade tests were maybe not tracked as well they should until the last little bit. So I think that this has been somewhat of a pattern of upgrade tests not being green consistently. So yeah, we might have stumbled upon a somewhat bigger issue here.
Your update is not surprising at all. This is typically always the first update about upgrade tests is, oh wow, they're all failing and I don't know whose fault it is. Just real quick to your thing about the master upgrade tests look good. So I posted a link in chat for what I'm looking at for the 1.8 tests. What dashboards do you look at for the master upgrade tests? Because I'm not finding anything that's named identically.
There's a master
master cube CTL SKU, master upgrade optional.
Master upgrade, the GKE ones of these. Yeah, master upgrade.
Okay. Master upgrade, just that. Okay.
So the first 3 set of tests are the ones that the GCE flavor ones are the ones that aren't coming up, and generally are failing to provide any signal. The GKE ones are looking better. We're looking okay-ish. These are the ones that don't have logs for them, and that we've been pushing to try to get logs out of, and that we hopefully will start to either today or tomorrow. But they're green-ish. So
stateful set.
Okay, so I think we need to. Boy, how do we proceed with this?
I'm confused. That master upgrade tab, I don't see anything passing. Or maybe I'm.
The whole tests are all. Sorry, I'm more specifying individual tests.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you scroll down, like there are like each component upgrade, like you can see like daemon set upgrade, deployment upgrade, job upgrade. So like each sig owns some like component upgrade test. If the upgrade is not passing or is failing, then the test does not makes any real sense. So we need to fix like the stateful upgrade and I think that's one I was listening.
Yeah, and we have notified SIGs about this, and they're perfectly happy to help, address things. A lot of, as is kind of normal with the EDE tests, some of them are just problems with the test setup more than actual failures, but without logs, it's really hard to debug these application failures or these tests.
The GCE upgrade test has logs. Only just the GKE one does not have logs.
Correct, yeah.
So we can't determine if these are actually real problems or not because we don't have the logs to debug.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If I was a Google PM and I was over that product and I saw that this was the state of the release, I would be terrified. I don't know. I mean, you're potentially talking about breaking functionality for your entire customer base that wants to upgrade. That's not a trivial thing.
So I'm working with Zach and Shyam trying to fix the GKE log thing, and I'll check again if it's working normally now, but we should at least start with the GCE upgrade tests because those having logs and those are having actually a worse state than the GKE upgrade test.
So who do we escalate to at Google for this stuff? Whose cage can we rattle to get this some priority? I mean, I know you guys are doing a lot, but it feels like there's a. I mean, how do we get more hands on deck for this? Because I mean, Caleb's suggestion about maintaining code freeze until these are fixed is actually pretty sane if you think about it.
Don't we add like a upgrade test like manager thing in the is that a role in the release team?
Not explicitly. I mean, Sen, you're sort of quasi in that role, and Eric sort of half has it.
Maybe you and I take this.
Yeah, I can take a look and see who like we need to ping like for the individual component upgrade.
I believe historically somebody gets chosen to focus specifically on upgrade tests because there's so much triaging there. I forget his name right now, but Monopole, I think, was doing this for the 1.7 release, and it's typically been other people as needed. It's usually a role best staffed by someone within Google because they can pull GKE resources as needed. I think maybe another way we tried doing this through SIGs in the past was to ping SIG cluster lifecycle under the idea that their stuff is probably in charge of the lifecycle of upgrading the cluster, and then to have them delegate to whichever SIGs are needed to fix the specific test that seems to be failing. And yeah, for what it's worth, this would be the sort of thing where I'd question, do we have so many bugs to fix here that it isn't reasonable to unfreeze code? But again, I don't know, and I honestly don't know if it's that painful to fix it by way of cherry picking on a daily basis. It just seems like typically we want to know if this pull request fixes the problem, which increases the need for expedient cherry picks rather than batching them on a daily basis.
Maybe we should figure out, get some just visibility on just how much damage there truly is, because it can be hard to do. Get some people to do some triage, figure out, get a view of the upgrade tests. And based on that, later today, if we can get that view and it feels like it's a tractable problem, there's fixes in flight, people know what it is, it's actually just this log exporting stuff mostly, then we go forward with the plan as it is. But if we can't get visibility, or we discover that there's actually a twisty thing that somebody didn't understand, we actually do hold off on lifting code freeze. We kind of continue, we set the next date as Friday, say, and see if we can clear things up by then. Partly because I think it's a nice idea, and it sets a nice signal into the team that, like, wait a minute, this is a serious thing. We're having to derail our plan as a result.
Yeah, I think that's really good, but that does mean that this is now essentially a P0 for you folks at Google to handle that. So I feel bad that that's the case, because I didn't want this to be a fire drill at the last minute, but here we are. So I will gladly communicate with Ken or with Mike Rubin or whoever I need to talk to about this to help facilitate or grease the wheels on the Google side. Just tell me who I need to contact, but I'm going to start with Ken because I think she'll be very interested in the health of this testing.
Okay.
But yeah, please, by all means, start finding out if this is substance or if this is something that is not, just a red herring that we don't even need to chase. Because if it's something like you're just not able to spin up the instances because a quota isn't there or something dumb, then that's not a big deal, and the cherry picks are going to be trivial. But if this is literally like somebody changed an endpoint or something that's breaking downstream functionality or whatever that is, like that, we cannot in good conscience put out a release that has that known defect in it. That is not acceptable.
Yeah, I will also try to follow up on that. I'm trying to make sense of upgrade test and its infrastructure. We're going to meet with somebody today in Google. I don't remember the name.
Okay.
but I can update you guys. So are we going to still end the code freeze today, or are we waiting for an update on this?
We are waiting to have an understanding if indeed the upgrade tests are trivial or if there is too much murkiness to make a determination.
Okay, so we basically are blocking on this for code freeze. Okay, I will try to have an update for you guys, maybe definitely today. I'll try to have an update on the SIG release chat. Or I'll update that I didn't figure anything out too if I didn't.
Yes, please. And so just to be clear, this is a fail closed event. So if for some reason we don't get feedback on this and we don't have any clear thing, I'm just going to say the code freeze or code thaw is suspended until Friday.
Okay.
So and I really don't want to do that. So anything we can do to eliminate that happening, and just I would request that Sen, Adam, Mehdi, whoever else is working on this, please make sure that there's lots of communication in SIG release. If there's crickets there, it's going to get me really nervous.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I will ask Chris.
Okay.
Okay, we are basically at time. Quickly, Steve, is there anything from the documentation perspective you need to update us on?
Yeah, we have in the feature spreadsheet, we have had many more people fill in the column about whether they need docs. So there are only 7 rows that still are missing either a yes or no in the needs docs columns. I've written to all the SIGs in the spreadsheet and asked them to fill that in. So I think we're okay for now.
Okay, so I'm going to call it status on that yellow for now.
Yep.
Okay, great. Jennifer or Rebecca, do you have anything related to release notes?
Yeah, so I would call it orangish, not yellow yet.
Okay.
Nor definitely not red. So I see 8 tick marks and only 2 themes, and I don't see any known issues. Maybe because this testing is still going on, so we should probably wait. And yeah.
So just known issues isn't a big deal yet because those are things that we need to suss out in the issues queue, so that are in the 1.8 milestone. So, but there are probably other things that you mentioned that definitely need to be fleshed out.
Okay. And another question I have, like in the previous release note, there are like known issues that might be fixed for this particular release. And in that case, do we have to highlight those issues which are fixed in this release notes? So, and there will be some carryovers, like which is, from the previous release, which is not fixed, but should be fixed. And how are we gonna treat those issues?
So for the most part, those would have already been fixed via cherry picks into additional patch releases. So as far as I know, I mean, we'll probably need, I don't know how we do it, but we need to actually understand what, if any, of those fixes have not been cherry picked. And typically the cherry pick going to the patch is how you tell people that is the defect is corrected. So I don't think it's not a big deal to call those out. And oh yeah, Aaron says those have historically not been explicitly mentioned. Yeah, correct.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, we are past time. I appreciate everybody's time so much. If there's anything else that needs to be covered, please put it in the SIG release channel. And I thank you all so much for your participation and engagement. And we'll be meeting again on Friday. And stay tuned for lots of chat in SIG release. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.